Chinese travelers are one of the largest groups helping to fuel the global tourism industry. The UN World Tourism Organization estimates in 2017, over 140 million trips abroad originated from China. Mei Zhang is the founder of Wild China, an award-winning travel company. She's also the author of Travels Through Dolly with a Leg of Ham. We want to welcome you to the show. You have a really unique perspective because you work with English speakers in the West who are traveling in China, as well as Chinese citizens traveling throughout their own country. So what are the distinctions and differences that you see?
Very interesting. We've seen an extraordinary growth of Chinese travelers, actually both domestically traveling in China and traveling outside. The Western travelers coming to China has maintained a steady pace in the segment that we serve, which is more high-end, tailor-made trips. But what's most interesting is I found the Chinese travelers have caught up with international travelers in sort of travel preferences and destinations they seek very quickly. A couple of things I see. Chinese travelers are pushing very adventurous locations, like what we just saw. Traveling to Tibet is a hot destination. Xinjiang area, also another hot destination, and other remote areas around China and the world. Bhutan, for example, is a very popular destination. And this year for Chinese, a lot of people are flocking to the cold island called Iceland.
So what's bringing about these travel preferences changes, do you think?
Well, like I just mentioned, destination becoming more interesting, but also what I've noticed is that when Chinese travelers are on the road, they constantly look for experiences. This is a drastic deviation from what we know in the past, that Chinese travelers all flock on the same buses, eat at the same restaurants and at the same tourist stops. This is changing fast. A lot of travelers opt to go off on their own, self-guided travel, self-driving, and they look for local experiences that will deviate from all the iconic sites. Basically, they've covered all the iconic sites, but they want a more interesting way that give them closer access to the local hosts or local culture or local experts.
So what do you think brought about the shift from, jumping out of the bus, taking all the snapshots, jumping back on the bus, to a more deeper engagement that you're kind of describing here? And when did you start seeing this shift?
I think this shift really came about in the last, I would say, 5 years or so. For a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it's a natural progression of travelers to mature as a traveler. They've covered the basic sites already. Now they want something deeper, more meaningful for themselves. And also, secondly, it's a bit of a funny thing, is I think because Chinese travelers always post on their cell phones, WeChat. And on WeChat, you've seen all your friends have covered the Eiffel Towers or the Empire State Building already, or the Great Wall already. You kind of censor yourself and you want to push for something, detailed, very experiential. If you show the artisan making a beautiful piece of jewelry, or learning to make pasta from an Italian, grandma, that you get a lot of comments, a lot of likes and hearts on WeChat, and so that's driving that as well. So intrinsically, they want to learn more.
Yeah, so they've matured as tourists, I guess you would say. You've got to adapt as well. Are they driving the adaptation, or are you trying to anticipate and come up with changes to please your clients?
Oh, I think it comes both ways. I was, in fact, talking to some of my colleagues in the industry, and they say, well, the customer preferences change constantly. You cannot rely on the same formula for more than a year. And so if you have to drive the change yourself, initiate it, or the moment you spot a change in their preferences, you adapt. So they are both driving us, but a lot of the time we have to lead the way. Otherwise, why would travelers need travel experts, right?
Well, the recession here in the United States produced something called the staycation. The economy is not growing at the enormous levels that we saw in the past in China. This trade war obviously is hurting both economies. Are you seeing more and more staycations from Chinese travelers?
Well, it depends on the definition of staycation. I think Chinese travelers so far, I have not seen any slowdown due to the trade war. This summer, the students coming to America for summer camps and their parents and grandparents coming with them continue to flow at a very large number. But at the same time, domestically, there is tremendous growth of short weekend excursions nearby. This is true, I think, in the West as well as China, but I don't think that is related to any of the trade or politics issues. It's more a filling their weekends with more interesting things to do.
Mei Zhang, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.